News tonight, Jerry Sandusky has been found guilty on 45 counts of child sexual abuse. Brian Moore is in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania tonight with the latest on the verdict announced about an hour ago. Brian?
Thanks. Jerry Sandusky walked into this courthouse with his family. He walked out a convicted child predator. He was in handcuffs, led out by police, beginning a very, very long prison sentence. The Pennsylvania Attorney General, Linda Kelly, just said that a serial child predator has been held accountable for his crimes. Defense attorney Joe Amendola told the gathered crowd here, at times cheering, at times booing, that his defendant was going to be spending the rest of his life behind bars, but he said that really was not much of a surprise. Joe Amendola said this case was like climbing Mount Everest.
The jury obviously believed the Commonwealth's evidence, believed the Commonwealth witnesses. That's clear from their verdict. I've been asked already inside, is that a surprise? And no, actually it was the expected outcome because of the overwhelming amount of evidence against Jerry Sandusky.
Here's a live look outside the Center County Courthouse, Bellefonte, Pennsylvania. A crowd of citizens out here, vastly outnumbering the number of media. A huge throng of media that came here for this much anticipated verdict after all these many months, in fact, many years of investigations. 4 of them. Jerry Sandusky, former assistant football coach at Penn State University, now a convicted child molester. He could face at his sentencing a minimum of 60 years, a maximum of 442 years. His attorney again says that he does expect Jerry Sandusky to spend the rest of his life behind bars. There's a footnote here. At the end of this trial, the bombshell revelation that Matt Sandusky, Jerry Sandusky's adopted son, was ready to testify against him, to say that he too had been abused. That leaves open the question of whether there are going to be more charges against Jerry Sandusky. But right now, this case finished. Live in Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, Brian Moore. Now back to you.
And our coverage of the Sandusky verdict continues. Joining us live from Palm Beach Gardens with a closer look at this conviction, Michelle Suskauer, our News Channel 5 legal analyst.
Really no surprises here, right, Michelle? His own defense attorneys were expecting this verdict.
It really is certainly no surprise to his own attorney, as we've just heard, but certainly no surprise. These are tough cases to win. He was never going to walk out of this courtroom because, again, 48 charges is what he was facing. 45 is what the jury came back, convicted him of. So it was really going to be, are they going to believe the credibility of these victims or not? And it was really overwhelming for them.
Bombshell of his, sorry, you might not have heard that, Michelle. A few moments ago, our reporter Brian Moore reported that the bombshell news that his adopted son was about to testify against him, he suggested that maybe that could lead to additional charges. What's the point at this point, really, for more charges to be filed when you've already been convicted on 45 counts?
Well, you know, there's an argument there. He is going to he's going to go to prison for the rest of his life. Even if he's just sentenced on one of these charges, it's the rest of his life. But he's facing over 400 years in prison. He's never getting out. But again, if there are additional victims, certainly they deserve to have their case heard and appropriately tried. But it's going to be a question of what the state's attorney general in Pennsylvania wants to do here, and whether they actually want to bring in Sandusky's adopted son or any other alleged victims of him during that time period.
Michelle, so there was no documentary evidence in this case, no videotape. It mostly relied on witness testimony, that of Michael McCreary, one of the assistant football coaches. And there was readbacks requested from the jury. Talk about the significance of those readbacks. What did the jury glean from those, and how were they possibly swayed by those readbacks?
Well, you know, first of all, this is not a case that was tried in one day. This case lasted, I believe, 7 or 8 days, and there was so much testimony. Obviously, there was at least one juror that needed to have clarification of some of the witnesses' testimony. And I think what's significant is when we are trying these types of cases, and we try these defense lawyers try these types of tough cases all the time, you can sort of get an idea of where a jury may be going depending on the type of evidence that they're struggling with. So, but again, this is no surprise as to what this jury did. And again, because of the cumulative nature, because there were so many victims, because there were so many similarities, the jury is probably left with the questions, what really is the motivation of these victims to not be truthful here? And obviously they couldn't come up with an answer, and there was really not enough holes that were poked in their testimony, in their statements, for this jury to hang their hat on any reasonable doubt. So that's why they came back with an overwhelming conviction here, 45 out of 48 counts.
And the sentencing to take place in about 3 months, we understand. We'll be continuing to follow this. Michelle Suskauer, thank you very much for joining us tonight in the rain to share your analysis. And you can count on News Channel 5 to continue to follow the developments in the Sandusky conviction. Make sure you wake up to Today on 5 beginning at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. And for updates anytime, head to our website, WPTV.com.